Welcome to the Fancy a Brew podcast. I'm Andy the Northern Diver. In this series I'll be discussing adventure, conservation and progression in scuba diving with some really interesting and inspirational divers that you might or not have heard of. The podcast is supported by Northern Diver International and you the listener through Patreon. So grab yourself a brew and enjoy this week's episode. Brian Davies, the Scuba Tuber, welcome to Fancy a Brew podcast, Series 2, Episode 6. Thanks for coming. Have you got a brew here? Have you done it?
Yeah, well, I've nearly finished it now. And, 2 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock for me, that's when I stop all caffeine. Yeah. And I know you've got onto the caffeine-free, so on my next trip to the UK, I'm bringing back cases of caffeine-free tea. Well, I've noticed, since trying to encourage PG Tips to maybe sponsor the podcast so we can give a few bags away, and I've followed them on Instagram. They bring out, there's so many different types of tea bags that they do. So not like, when you go to some fancy afternoon tea restaurant, you can Lapsu Susong or whatever they call it. None of that. It's just like they're infused with different things. So some to boost your immune system and lowering your caffeine levels and stuff. And I've noticed a massive difference by having caffeine free. The first week I was just having power headaches. And we've run out of them now, so I've gone back on normal ones and I've not noticed any noticeable difference, but I do drink quite a lot. So when she goes to Tesco again, we'll be straight back on the caffeine free. So you need to get on it, mate. It's the future. Yeah, no, you've convinced me. I'm Tetley's PG Tips. So yeah, all the right brands for me.
Ace. Well, I've got to first of all thank you for having me on your YouTube channel. What's it called? Scuba Tuber with Brian Davies?
Scuba Tuber Live, yeah.
Scuba Tuber Live, sorry.
I invented that term.
I love how you coined that phrase, that's brilliant. Looking through your sort of biography, it's not the only thing you sort of came up with, because from what you're telling me, you were kind of the guy who introduced scuba diving to your area that you're in.
Yeah, I moved to Dubai in 1987. I'd been visiting before. There were 3 BSAC clubs here, but there was no sort of commercial, recreational PADI diving centre. Yeah. And we were a PADI centre and a BSAC school at one point. So diving was going on in fact, Sharjah 406 have just had their 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And they were set up by people from the Trucial Scouts in the old days.
Right.
Because all these, the United Arab Emirates, I think, only came into being in 1972, I think it is. Before that, they were treaty states protected by Britain.
Right.
And then Britain said they're pulling out, you better all join up and we'll help you. So that you used to have the Trucial Oman Scouts who were responsible for keeping law and order and paying tribute. The Royal Marines used to go up and down the Gulf and confiscate gold, illegal gold, and give it as tribute, so yeah, we were pirates, I guess.
So what's it going to take to get you to stop calling BSAC the BSAC?
I'm always going to call it the BSAC. Sorry. 62 years old. British Tobacco Club or the BSAC.
You can, when we go to, every now and again when I go to a meeting or some training, you can certainly tell those that have been in the club for quite a number of years because none of them will drop it. And I think, I don't know because I've not been diving with them that long, but I think they've gone a big way to try and improve how they're seen, aren't they? As in, not improve, that's the wrong word, sort of modernise who they are and how they're seen. They've changed their logo quite recently and they've brought in new management and stuff. And I think that's why I know it as the BSAC, or not even that, I think it's just BSAC now. But you can certainly...
I'm happy with calling it BSAC, it's stuck in my ways. I guess I will get there if enough of you go on at me, I wonder what Mike Rowley calls it, because he used to be my area coach. And he actually came out to the UAE as well to do some instructor training with us here. So I wonder what he calls it.
So let's give us a bit of an history then. Give us a bit of an intro to who you are, and then we'll just see where our conversation goes then, shall we? Don't give too many spoilers away though. All
right, okay. Well, I've been involved in scuba diving really since 1982, where I learned with a BSAC club. There you go. In Jubail, Saudi Arabia. But I've been trying to learn to dive for about 5 years previous.
Right.
but there were, all the BSAC clubs were always fully booked, and you had to wait and wait and wait. And this club in Jubail, I was working in the oil field there in construction. I just said, well, can I just pitch up? So I think I'd done nearly all the lectures up to second class diver, which is before I even got in the pool.
Really?
I said, I'll just attend the lectures. So then they gave me a book and signed. In those days, you had to do snorkel diver first, And then just perseverance paid off, and they said, okay, right, and that a couple of the members started teaching me on the side, so to speak. But it wasn't easy, And my first experience at the diving, where I got the bug, because I'm an army brat, my father's in the REME.
Yeah.
And I remember in Osnabrück, my father's sport was archery, because every Wednesday they did sport, right? But the guy opposite used to do skiing and scuba diving.
Wow.
And that's what got me hooked. And then even at the forces schools, they had scuba diving programs, but you had to be older to be on them and stuff, So it was never easy. And even when I was doing my BSAC instructor, club and advanced instructor, they were a devil's own job to get on, because I was working in the UK but travelling for my job, and you get on them months in advance. I remember, I think I did my club instructor up in Peterhead or Aberdeen. I remember staying overnight, driving all the way up from the Midlands.
Wow.
So it's a lot easier now.
Is that because back then there was probably less people doing it and less instructors available?
Well, there were more BSAC members than there are today. I think at one stage, I nearly said BSAC then. I think at one stage, I might be wrong, we may have had something like 50,000 members.
Yeah.
So, but there wasn't any competition. There was a Sabacca Association, PADI was fledgling, and the Scottish Sabacca Club. So there wasn't. If you wanted to learn to dive, in general, you had to join a BSAC club.
Yeah. It's
one of the BSAC schools. Side dive used to be a big BSAC diver producer, so to speak, and Multaqua in Malta.
Yeah.
Then with the diving office at Jubail Divers, I think they were called 957. He and I returned to the UK about the same time. He was from Lancaster, so we decided to set up Scuba Tech.
Ace. Is that still going?
No, they went bust after a couple of years after I got my investment repaid. So,
yeah.
But that was the forerunner of stats and asset. So Stuart Maynard, who's I think he's in retirement now, was the big equipment guru. That's what he then went on to do. Used everything we'd learned in Scuba Tech, and then I got transferred to Dubai, and then started bringing in weekly shipments of gear by air freight. It was really cheap in those days, and it was easy to import. So I started up selling on the side, because I just get it from Scuba Tech, and then it just naturally progressed into a shop, a centre. And we had a big full service centre and centres all around the UAE. But in those days, nobody really knew where Dubai was. So it was really difficult to make money. Despite you being, and then people started, and then PADI instructors started setting up their own ones. So, and the weather wasn't always great. There wasn't daily diving, and if the weather was bad, like it's been for the last few weeks here, you couldn't make any money taking people diving.
Yeah.
So I made the decision and then a company from Kuwait came down. They wanted to, they thought they'd take over the market. So fine, I sold out to them, and then concentrated on my day job.
Yeah. So what sort of brought you back into the fold now then, getting onto YouTube?
I'm getting older on in life, and then, and I didn't dive for a few years. And then I was travelling a lot, and I'd work in Mauritius. So I go down to Mauritius and I wouldn't dive. I said, this is crazy. So then I said, right, when I go to Mauritius now, I'm going for the weekend before, weekend after, I'll go scuba diving, and then we'll just work the whole week. And then a whole group of my friends here from the Desert Diving Club, every month they'd go up to the Muslim Dam. So I started going on the Dow trips again. And that was one of my first videos, right? Because we couldn't go on the Dow trip. Just for fun, I thought, let's make a virtual dive. This won't last for long. And I got into YouTube really because of my kids. They're both scuba divers. My daughter's 18. She should be a dive master by now, but everything was locked down. She's a master scuba diver. And I thought, oh, let's record some of this, what they've done, you know. So that's why I started a YouTube channel, plus of the pandemic. And then it just kind of moved on. I don't know which direction the channel's going to go, but I'm not going to stop. Not now.
Have you done much of the sort of creator academy within YouTube?
Yeah, I look at, but you know, I've got to work 50 hours a week, right? So it's, you know, when we were talking before, you're into it all. I've taken some of those tips on board, but you know, I've got a lady who helps me, Ria, my superstars, with the editing, right? But it's just getting, like now I'm working on 2 oxygen videos. They're going to be fantastic. I'm going to take the Dan O2 kit apart and I've rebuilt it, and I've got stuff from America that just to show the way you should have a O2 kit. And hopefully Dan will take what I've got on board and offer some of the stuff that I've done as optional extras, right? And then I've got another one coming out 2 weeks after that on an expedition oxygen kit, you know, because we go out, you know, we can be 5-6 hours away at 10 knots, right? Well, a Dan kit's absolutely bloody useless for that, right?
Yeah.
So that's coming. I'm not going to tell you what's in it, but they take so long because you've got to get them all right. You know, and there's no point in me doing reviews and how to do this, because people like yourself, divers ready, do it already, all that stuff really well. So I did this disinfection video. It took me 2 months to do that because I was in contact with Dan because their recommendations in Europe and America were in conflict. Europe then changed. I've also been in contact with Dan about the oxygen video because there's some conflict on what's the right sort of mask. So I spend hours getting this all right, you know, and I've had stuff shipped to an address in the US to come over here. Just small little things. Really? But just to show people, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, I can't deal with Dan USA because we're in Dan Europe, but the oxygen kit I got given, right, is a Dan USA one, and they haven't got the stuff that, so you know, there's a thing called shop and ship. So I just ship it to shop and ship, and they send it over. So yeah, I'm good. Hopefully I'll finish the filming on the first one this week, and that's what I like doing. I like taking a subject which is quite simple and then improving on it, you know, but it does take a lot of time.
I think going from those creator academies, one of the things that, or a couple of things we've learned from that is to have a collaboration. That always works really well because your audience might like me and vice versa, so we both grow expeditiously. But then to be quite niche, so like you said, you know, if you do just to keep doing gear reviews, there's plenty of people out there that have got a much bigger following and are probably being given half the gear for free in order to do that review. Whereas you doing something completely different, like looking at something that nobody else perhaps is, whether it be an O2 kit from Dan or anybody else, and then where you've made, didn't you make a tripod a while ago? Yeah,
that was that's, I'm trying to do different things, you know, and the reason for that, I've got my GoPro and Paralens journey. Now that's the Fakita videos are going like hot, and I'm getting lots of comments. So that now allows me to, I think in a couple of days we'll have the first comments video up. But going through the Fakita the way I have, and I'm not anti the product, and I'm still very supportive. But I think they launched it too early. I think that's evident from my videos. I keep saying I'm still a big supporter because it goes to 250 meters, so it's great for tech divers. You know, the GoPro in its normal housing only goes to 40-45. The color correction is good. It sucks at close up, and I'm not talking macro. I'm talking, when you want to go into the head of one of your sturgeons you see in Cape and Ray. But that could all be, and now Paralens are talking to me and we're working together. I mean, they've asked me to be a tester, but I wanted to see the terms and conditions first, because if it stops me putting videos up, as you see them, now I'm not interested. I'm not going to. And you see on all my equipment stuff, I've got a big policy on my equipment review policy, right? I generally buy everything myself, and if someone does give me something, I will tell people right at the start. But today I've bought every bit of kit or borrowed it from my mates.
I think it's a good idea. When I tested, the only piece of kit I've ever tested for anybody, as in they've given it me to test, was the Northern Divers undersuit or under vest. It's called the Electrocore heated vest. It's not an expensive outlay, but it's flipping great. But I tested it from like 12 months ago, and it was between me and them. It was never a public thing, and any recommendations that I put to them, they certainly took on board and perhaps did. And now I can't speak highly enough of it. But if there was some shite about it to say, I probably would just not, because I'm not doing gear reviews in that respect. It was more a research and development, help them create a great product that I could then use.
Yeah, well, I tried. I mean, some people, some of the really successful scoopers have just got some definite ideas and just want to slag it off, and you've got all these people following them like sheep. I still on my recreational diving use the Scuba Pro Air 2. I think it's a fantastic device. Right, I dive with 3 or 4 people every single week. I have my regulator without an octopus on it or alternate air source, and I've got my Air 2. Yeah, but I do have a stage as well, because we're on when we're on, and I said, right, we'll just have the stage on all the time, even if we're not on scooters. But if we get into, and we have got in out of air situations before. A friend of mine was testing a full face mask, and the valve hadn't been put on, and he went, and we were okay. Air 2 in, primary donate. That's what we learned, primary donate. Right in the day, because we used to do buddy breathing. We didn't have octopuses.
No.
Right? It was all, well, there wasn't enough ports on most of the regulators at the time.
No.
Yeah, and we used to have to do a course for BCD, which was then called LBLJ.
Is that the big orange one?
The Fenses, what they call Fenses, and adjustable buoyancy life jacket.
Yeah.
Then the Americans got in with their buoyancy compensation devices. So, I mean, I do find it a bit funny, all this debate about primary donate. Yeah, we used to do buddy breathing all the time, and that's primary donate.
Yeah, I think it's largely come out of ignorance. People haven't been shown a different way, and when you turn up at a dive site and everyone's got a yellow hose and it's all crimped round in a D-ring, that's all they've ever seen. So when it comes to wrapping a long hose round your neck and all that kind of stuff, I'm not wrapping things around my neck. Well, actually, you're not, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, and that's been working. So if you give that to your buddy, he knows or she knows it's going to be working. So for me,
no, I get it. I absolutely get it, and I'm not. Again, I like to be positive on everything, but it's when people come and slag off the alternative way of doing it, right? So what do? We dive to generally on this coast 23 meters, right? 18 to 23. Warm water. We're a group of divers, 4 or 5 of us will always dive together. Same in the Muslim Dam, we go a bit deeper, and that's why we carry stages. But I just carry a stage all the time now, because then your weight's the same and everything. And I'm a much bigger fan of having a stage than a long hose. A 40 cubic foot, stage is brilliant. 30 cubic foot, 30. And we're not doing penetrations and stuff. So you run out of air, or you're separated from your buddy on a scooter, which is easy. Yeah. You can continue to dive. We generally find ourselves again. But a stage has got plenty in. Where are you going to go? Up. Right? Get your DSMB up and just wait for a pickup. Absolutely. So it does get me, some of these scuba tubers. This is the way to do it, right? There's no countenance of anything else. Well, there's more than one ways to skin a cat, right?
Absolutely. And what's right for you?
Well, that's probably not allowed to say that. More than one way to do things correctly.
Yeah. And that's assuming that. I said that to someone about the DIR doing it right. He says, well, that's taking into account that someone's doing something wrong. But what's right for you is not necessarily right for me, because your kind of diving is much warmer and much probably clearer water than what I'm in, and I might be penetrating stuff. So what?
Exactly.
You can't sit there at the other end of the world and saying you're doing it wrong. Well,
when I used to dive with the BSAC in the UK, I was a member of the QE hospitals in Birmingham Special Branch.
Yeah.
We were diving in those days. We had gone to octopuses, dry suit as the primary method of buoyancy compensation. You'd still have your BC on as a life jacket. Single 12 litre pumped up to 228 bar, and we'd be diving to 50 metres. I mean, not every week, but you could have 8 metres, 8 minutes on the old BSAC RP&L tables at 8 metres. And a lot of that was square profile, of course, because we didn't have dive computers.
No.
The day the Aladdin came out, I remember the Deca Brain, but it was expensive and a lot of problems with that. It was a spiral technique. But when that little Aladdin Air came out, I think it was under 99 quid. It was under 99 quid, and what a game changer! Because then you could go to the Red Sea, go down to 50 meters and come up gradually. Now, I'm not advocating, because there's been a lot of work done now, diving on air to 50 meters just because of gas density.
Yeah.
So don't do this at home. I'm talking about the 80s. I'm not advocating. I don't want it in the comments. I don't want people coming on my channel saying, "You bloody dinosaur, dangerous bugger." No. I absolutely agree with all the new stuff. Right? You should dive shallower. I think it's 40 meters on air now with the gas density tables, isn't it?
Well,
but
if we had never have dived that, or not necessarily me, I have been to 50 on air, but once or twice. But if we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't have done those things.
Yeah.
So people shouldn't sit there and go, "Oh, back in the day, look how bad you were." Well, a lot of the things came from us doing things like that. It's called evolution, isn't it?
I've seen more cases of decompression sickness in the last 15 years. I don't think between the 20 years from 1982, I don't think I ever saw one.
Really? Well, talking about...
We were decompression diving as well,
Yeah.
We were following the tables, right? So, and I remember, you'll never guess what the descent rate was. I think it was 15 meters a minute, 25 meters a minute to go down, and 15 meters a minute to come up.
That's like
Bloody hell, we were coming up like fizzy bottles.
50% faster, that 15 meters. Yeah, because we do 10 meters now, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, flipping it. Right, well, talking about going back in the day, talk us through you as a diver over the last sort of, give or take 40 years, isn't it, really? If you started learning in the late...
Well, I still am a big BSAC, British Tobacco Club, BSAC fan. I still think it's the best way to learn and go diving in the world. And that I'll take that with me forever, because it just, you have all these like-minded people who all work together to be able to go do adventurous diving in the main quite cost effectively. And I'm a big BSAC or BSAC fan, big. And that was my whole training, was that all the way up to Advanced Instructor. I mulled about doing first class diver. They did a first class diving course in Dubai. But in those days, I was so tired at the end of the week because we were doing the dive shop and I was doing my day job. Jeez. And I just sat back and thought, and they're calling me up, "Brian, come on the course." I think Mike Rowley was out as well. And I just said, no, and I've over the years suffered from depression as well. When I'm feeling a bit depressed, I just don't want to interact with people.
Yeah.
But for me, the Advanced Instructor course was mind blowing, right? I don't think anything is as good as that even today. And then I think it was in the early 90s, PADI offered all BSAC or BSAC Advanced Instructors a crossover at Stony Cove for 200 quid. Right. So of course we all went and did it. And they were getting mad with us because of the swims and that, and we were just zooming off doing the swim and then mucking around for the last sort of 3 or 4 minutes that we had available, right?
Yeah. Just touching on your depression there, because it's not something I knew was coming in the conversation, but I've suffered it in the past with like low mood. That's what I was diagnosed with, and I had counselling and stuff to help me get through that. But I've not felt depressed, even during this lockdown, for a long time. And I think the long time is since I've found diving. It's given me so many things to do. You've got your planning and preparation and learning, like the packing of your kit the night before and the maintenance of it, and then getting into other things, whether it be underwater photography or chatting to you on here. It's just kept me so busy that my mind...
Then you got stuff to look forward to, right?
Exactly, and I've managed the disappointment of like last year, trips being cancelled and training not happening by there's always another thing to do. We're servicing a set of regulators or taking my camera out and making another video around the local pond or something, So my depression levels have sort of crashed. Is that been a similar sort of thing to you since you found out?
No, because I still work as well full time, and you can come in and out. And with me, I just get you know, I know I've got to do something for a YouTube video, like put the questions for this week's live stream with Neil Garrett, Maidman of the CEO's Trust. I've only sent in the questions today. Now, if I'm feeling chipper, then I'll knock them out the same day that I told him or the day after. But I just let things. So yeah, I've struggled with it all my life, to be honest, and I didn't know until I was about 45 what depression was. But I think a lot of people in my situation, my age range, suffer from it. They just refuse to accept it.
It's like a live with thing, isn't it?
But the great thing is, once you know you are prone to suffer from depression, you've got two choices, right? You fight it and live with it, or you just give up. You know, well, I fight it and live with it. And I think once I retire from the construction industry, I think I'll never suffer it again, because I'll be out doing what I love. Right, which is going around the world diving in the winter. I'll be in England in the winter, living on a boat, and probably do some South Coast diving. But when we get to Christmas or just before, I'll be off until about Easter, and I'll just be diving every day.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Right, sorry to interrupt your story. So you were down at Stony Cove and you just trained as a PADI instructor as a crossover. So where did you go from there?
Well, then, you know, I became an IDC staff, and then, you know, I wasn't too bothered because we had a dive centre and some partners who wanted to go for course director. But I thought I should understand the system, and I did quite a few certs. And then I did get into, right at the early start of the technical diving, TDI Middle East set up. I used to take groups over to Egypt. You know, it's in our backyard, right, the Red Sea. So I got friendly with the guys there, set up a guy called Kareem Halal and a lady called Twigs Mayer. That was, I forget what her first name was. She went by Twigs because she looked like Twiggy. She was so thin. And then I started getting into some of the technical, right, the extended range, Advanced Nitrox. Nitrox became Instructor Trainer, the rest Instructor. And then we got into Rebreathers. We did the Atlantis, which became the Draeger Dolphin, which I still think is a superb piece of kit as a recreational rebreather. I'm not talking about, but because it lets off 1 in every 5 breaths, right? So you're always going to be okay with your O2 levels and stuff. But it was just too expensive. In fact, my big dive buddy Stevie and I, we've got a couple of units we're refurbishing, hopefully.
Really?
Before the summer, we'll be out with the Atlantis or Draeger Dolphins, as they're called now. But they were just a pure recreational semi-closed rebreather. Very safe, very easy. When I see, and then we did the Inspiration course. And Stevie went on and got an Inspo. I didn't. I just thought at the time, because when was this? Again, I think in the 90s, when the Inspo had just been released, and Dave Thompson was our instructor, you know, one of the guys who helped develop it. I just thought there's too much you've got to look after it, and it was too early. And I think I was right. I decided for me, no, I'm not willing to spend the money and the time. And also that there was a higher degree of risk than there is today, because now the training's improved, the quality of the sensors, the backup. A good friend of mine is David Street, who owns Proteus Rebreathers, and we talk a lot, and the amount of work that he's doing for safety, as are the other manufacturers, but because he's my friend, I can discuss it with him, is really good. And I think if I was a young man like you now, I would go, definitely, I'd be into rebreathers big style, but I'm 62. I'm 130 kilos, aiming for 110 or 100 kilos in the next 2 years. You know, I used to be 150 when I was really heavily involved in the day job, when I was working for a big British PLC.
Are you a tall guy then?
Yeah. I'm 6'4".
Bloody hell, you're like another foot bigger than me. That's why you weigh over 50 kilos than I do. No wonder. Yeah, and
I walk between 10 and 15,000 steps a day with my dog.
Jeez.
You know, up a Belgian Malinois.
Mega.
Again, the weight has always played on my mind.
Yeah.
So, and in the sort of last 10 years it went up, but now I've lost nearly 20 kilos. So now I'm just working on the getting the upper body a bit stronger, because my legs are like ox legs, you know, with the diving, with the walking.
What I've done, I've just put these 2 little push-up bar things on the floor. So every time I go in that room now, I'm just going to try and bang out 10 press-ups, because I would never make time for doing that. But I figured it's just a bit gimmicky. But it used to work when I was a lad and I first training to join the army. Every time the
I was going to say, have you left the army now, or have you?
I'm due to in April 2021. Yeah. But when I was training to join the army, one of the things we used to do, me and my wife, was sit in front of the telly quite a lot every evening. So during Coronation Street, the adverts would come on. She'd go and put the kettle on, and I'd just bang out as many press-ups or as many sit-ups as I could every time the adverts come on. And then when it came to the physical training tests, which are all press-ups and sit-ups, I was the one that was just smashing them out like nobody, you know, like a. My
brother-in-law was in the army for 30 years.
Yeah.
He was 30 years. He still swears by push-ups as the best way to train, because he was time served, left as a major, but went in as a boy soldier, army apprentice, and he says push-ups, best training, best fitness regime in the world.
Well,
so when I can bang out 100, I would be really happy.
Well, that's what I figured. You know, I mean, at 10, it was quite hard to start with.
And doing those what do you call them? Those mini bars, bloody hell, that's even harder.
Well, you've got to go a little bit lower as well, so you get a little bit of traction, yeah. So that's my little thing. I'm going to try and ride my bike a little more, but you know, just to try and improve your upper body, it's dead easy. Just put something somewhere like that. I think they only cost a tenner off Amazon, and just put them in a room that you don't go in that regular, but when you do, I've just got to bang 10 out. As long as you don't start avoiding going in that room.
Well, the driver for me is I watch the Dan Southern Africa YouTube channel quite a lot, because they put out quite a lot of content. And Dan have said, for older divers, as long as we keep muscle mass, our susceptibility to decompression sickness drops, reduces immensely.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, I'm okay on the stuff below the waist. I've got this little tummy to get rid of now, and then just get working on the upper body. And that's the driver.
Yeah.
It's not because I want to be Mr. 63, 2021. Because we dive a lot, right? I dive at least 4 times a week.
Yeah.
If the weather's okay, and sometimes I'll do up to 6 or 7 dives if I pop over to the East Coast for a few. Mm. So I shouldn't be pushing my body that hard. But having said that, I do dive very conservatively. We dive with Nitrox all the time, and we never push the limit at all. But when I go Liverpool diving, then it's a different issue. I like to get maximum.
Do you have gradient factors set up on your computer, or do you have?
No, not yet. Computer? No, I've got computers. I've got a new Scuba Pro G2 sitting in the UK.
Yeah.
It's locked down as. I've just had my jab. I've just had my first jab.
Oh, yeah, nice one.
Yeah, I had the Chinese one, the Sinopharm one, and another couple of weeks I'll have the booster. And then about 10 days later, I'll be off to the UK to pick up the kit that I've got waiting there.
I bet you can't wait.
Yeah. Well, I've been using the old. I've always been a fan of what I call the Mover Tech, but they're now Scuba Pro computers, because the Aladdin, that was what I learned. But I know people love the sheer water, and I know the sheer water is the best in the world. So no one has to tell me that. I know it.
I'll not. Well, it's funny you should.
I've already drunk the Kool-Aid, as James Blackman would say. Sheer water.
It's funny you say that though, because a mate of mine, I nicely call him Shotgun Mike on here, because the first time we went snorkeling together, we found a shotgun, and he was the one holding it in the video, so we call him Shotgun Mike. But he was looking to buy a new computer because his Sunto died. It was showing we were at like 140,000 meters or something a couple of weeks ago, and it was packed up. It was the old one. I forget which one it was now, but anyway, so he was looking to buy a new one, and he came across a Sunto that came with like the screw-in pod, that goes in the back of your stage, and it tells you, how much you're breathing and how much gas.
Yeah, I love those. I love them.
But it was an Eon or Core or one of the others, but the same sort of computer with less the actual tank pod. Shearwater are doing now for about 150 quid less. and it's called
is that the Pellegrin? Is it
the Peregrine? Yeah, that's it.
Peregrine, yeah.
So I said to him, get that, and he's chuffed a bit to it. The only downside to it is we've now moved into tier 4, so we can't go diving anywhere.
Have they got the AI, or what they call air integrated, out for that?
No, I think when I interviewed Ranva very earlier on last year, so midsummer, I asked her a few questions about, because she's the rep for Shearwater in the sort of North Atlantic, or around Norway, Sweden, all sort of that way, Scandinavia, that's it. And she was saying there's a few things that, you know, they can't do everything on the first go. They've got to have something to improve it too. So there may be that adjustment. Same with, they brought out that really nice sort of wristwatch version, the Terric.
The Terric, like,
yeah. You know, it's £1,000 that. And I was like, you know what, that'd be really nice if it had perhaps a GPS chip in it and like a heart rate monitor. Yeah. I could see the investment worthwhile there, because I could wear it everywhere I go on holiday, do all the same sort of stuff. It'd be fantastic. And again, she's heard no end of that. She's heard that so many times before, but there's only so many things that they can do to make it viable.
Yeah, otherwise it never gets released. Well, the reason I went with the G2 is because I've always been happy with the Scuba Tech products. Plus, Mike's Dive Centre had a fantastic deal on. You got the sensor for free.
Wow.
Right. And then they had an offer, you got another 15 or 20% off. So I thought, right, yeah. They couldn't ship it overseas, so I just shipped it to a UK address. So, because, I still don't like spending lots of money on dive kit. I try and, dive sensibly and cost effectively. But some of you young lads, I
don't know anyone who does. Yeah, who does like spending loads of money on dive kit? I'd much sooner have paid $3,000 instead of $8,000 for my rebreather. But I'm waiting for a shipment from Mike's myself. I've just ordered a new camera housing, so that's due tomorrow, hopefully.
What have you got?
I bought an Nauticam. I've succumbed. So I've got all the cool kids kit now. So I've got Shearwater electronics, I've got a JJ rebreather, and I've got a Nauticam housing. So I am.
Well, you're not going to believe this. I just bought for 200 dirhams, which is about 40 quid.
Yeah. A
brand new Nauticam housing for a Panasonic GX1, which is quite an old camera.
Yeah.
And I bought the camera with the macro lens in America for I think 150 quid.
How?
And now, of course, I've got to buy the port. I think it's the macro port 56 and the gear.
Yeah.
Well, the gear I got on eBay in the UK for 85 quid. And now there's a guy on Underwater Photography for sale. Facebook has got the port for sale. So I've put that together for nothing. And it's only because when I start travelling again, I want to do some macro stuff. I'm a big fan. I collaborate a lot with Critter Hunter.
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, we'll get on to him in a sec. The thing I found with this Nauticam housing is you can look at the housing, you can look at the port. I needed 2, so I've got a dome and a flat port.
It costs a fortune. No, 300-400.
Added to that, you then need other things. So you need a ring, like an extension ring, to make one fit the other.
Yeah.
That's a couple of £100. And then you need, or you want to have, this little vacuum detector.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you spent another £1,000 on just bits to make everything work together. Like, bloody hell.
Well, that's a video I'm going to make because I'm going to get to the end of my Paralens and GoPro journey, and I'm going to sort of come out of the closet with me cheap Nauticam setup and how to do it right.
Nice. So we talked earlier about collaborations. And one of, I know you sort of talk about quite often, is Critter Hunter, and he features certainly in the comments on your YouTube videos, your live videos.
Oh, we're always taking the mickey out of each other.
Yeah, I got given a task to find a critter, and it was from
Mark Wynn.
Mark Wynn, that was it. Mark gave me a challenge to find one. It was a John Dory. Now there's none around sort of Morecambe and Liverpool Bay, so I'm never going to find one of them. Maybe down south, but when we were diving in Plymouth a couple of weeks ago, the weather was terrible, and you can imagine that the storms that have been whipping up, the vis was terrible, so I didn't see much. But I'd like to get Critter Hunter on here, so that if he hears this, big shout out. I want to get.
He'll collaborate with you. He's really good. He's helped me tremendously with the channel. He's been, we did we do a lot together, you know.
I'll definitely reach out to him. But what sort of contact and content have you done with him?
Well, yeah, I was one of the first Critter Hunter challenges. Now I'm working with him on the Scuba Apprentice.
Right.
The series dive guide, guy called Alex Dorder's 13 and Ames Charisse, and he's taken her on as a scuba apprentice. She's going to learn to dive. She's doing discovered scuba dives every week at the moment. Yeah. You'll see a video go up soon. I've just sent them 263 cubic. When I talk aluminium, I always talk cubic feet. When I talk steel, it's bar and litres, right? Because the Yanks are all in cubic feet, right? So I've just sent a 2 reconditioned 45 cubic feet tanks, which is like half of the standard resort 80 cubic feet, 263s. Because I got given 23 cylinders from a retiring dive instructor. So he used to teach a lot of kids. So I got a lot of stuff. I mean, it needs a lot of servicing and stuff, but we got a jacket for her, and then I got put together. And Alboom Diving have been supporting me, so they serviced the jacket, they serviced the regulator, and then I got an amazing deal on a console Sunto Zook dive computer. You wouldn't believe. A guy who used to have a shop was just selling stuff, so I bought one of those and put it on. Then there's a wetsuit, a bag, and a little Fujifilm camera with a housing. Which, I mean, the video is only 720 resolution, but for her, you know, she can just learn with that. And if she breaks it or it floods, and Alboom have serviced the housing as well, it doesn't matter, does it? You know, you're not going to, because Critter Hunter told me someone's already bought her a GoPro as well. Wow. So he's doing that channel. I've just put a clip together today to send him. We've got all the Filipino staff in Alboom in the service shop, egging her on and talking about her gear. And then we've got these what they call balikbayan box being loaded at my factory.
Nice. With
everything in, and that's going by sea, because they have this system where they can send stuff home relatively cheaply in pre-sized boxes that all fit into a container. So that's on the way.
Gleaming.
So I've done that. He's done the live streams. Out we get some other people for live streams. Yeah. So when I can get to the Philippines, we'll go and do some diving in Anilao and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Mega. So tell us more about your live streams then, because that's kind of how we initially got introduced. I'll be honest. Yeah. I very, very rarely use YouTube, short of me posting my own content.
You were saying, yeah.
I just don't have the time. Much like you, I run a business, I have kids, I have a marriage, I try to stay fit. There's only so many hours in the day, isn't there? So
I mean, you're doing the YouTube, that's just...
I can. And I'm doing it alone. If you've got, like you said, somebody helping you out, that takes a lot of pressure off.
I'm not designed for editing, I can tell you that. I could be a producer, director, I couldn't be an editor.
So tell us a bit more about your YouTube. We obviously know you do your live streaming and
I've been off the live streams for a while because I was making the studio. And I want to get the studio ready because I wasn't very happy with the sound quality and things. So we're back up now. I've got on the 8th of January, Neil Garrett Maidment. He's the founder and executive director of the Seahorse Trust.
Right.
So if you go onto my channel, you'll see it up there as a live stream. And he's a really interesting guy. I think he set it up in 1999, but he's been involved with the British Seahorse Survey since 1994.
Yeah.
And he's single-handedly, or with a big team of volunteers, really helped protect seahorses, of which there's 2 species in the UK. And people didn't really think there were seahorses in the UK.
No way.
Who else have I got? Paralens, the Vikita.
Yeah.
I've got the Chief Technology Officer on the 12th.
Way.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Him, and which I take my hat off to him because I've been critical and supportive in my videos. I've tried not to, but they've got a lot of work to do. So he's willing to come on air live, take questions. I mean, that's big balls stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm really, really happy with that. And then I've got one of the directors from GUE lined up. I'm just working on the questions, and we've got to schedule it. I've got another guy who's agreed to do it. He's in Australia. I think it's called the Major Projects Foundation. What these guys do is they go and look at wrecks in the Pacific from World War II, World War One, and determine there's a still oil or hazardous fuel in them, and then they come up with a way to recover that oil or fuel or whatever. So we've just not managed to touch base. That was put together through Dave Street.
Yeah.
So of Proteus. So yeah, I'm back into it. I try and do one live stream a week. As I said, I was getting the studio sorted out, and towards the end of the year, I think people don't really want to watch live streams and stuff, and that's why I've had a week off for YouTube. We've been working on videos, but who wants to watch videos on YouTube over the festive period about diving? You know, you've got to be pretty sad to do that, like me. I've been watching
to be fair, I was the same. It came up to the first week of December, and I'd planned this in. I wasn't going to record any more podcasts. I wasn't going to edit anymore. I was just going to have a good 3-week break to come back fresh in the new year, because it takes its toll, doesn't it? You're doing them week in, week out, and you just sometimes want to put your feet up and read a magazine or watch the world go by rather than work. And
well, James at Divers Ready, right? He took a whole month off when he was moving house and getting his, look how successful he is now.
I know. He's done well though, but he's had, I think if you can get the support of magazines behind you and much bigger, it's quite easy to develop. I'm not saying he's not good enough to, and I've watched quite a few of his videos and I do like his style. And it's
because he's controversial, isn't he?
He can be, yeah. But he's
I like, he's done well. I take my hat to him. We're trying to think of a collaboration together at the moment. I'm in contact with him.
Yeah.
But he's British, right? He's from Cornwall.
Yeah, he certainly lives in a nice part of the world, and he's right on the water in Florida, isn't he?
Well, you're not going to believe this. I've just I was involved with South Florida with my business for about 15 years, and I didn't go diving there once. I didn't know it's the wreck capital of the world.
Yeah.
I was going every month at one stage, but that does knock it out of you. That taking 22 hours to get to Miami or Fort Lauderdale. But I say I'm going over there diving now. Yeah. As soon as the world opens up, one of my stops is over to South Florida.
Yeah, nice one. So what's the diving like near you? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, we've got the Muslim Dam, which is our go-to spot, which is the North Arabian Sea.
Right.
And that goes up to where when we get permission and the weather's good, we go up overnight on the Dow, and then we're virtually within sight of the islands that Iran appropriated from the UAE in the 70s.
Yeah.
And that's wild diving, because when you go that far north, there's not many people diving there. It's all big, generally a lot of big stuff. The viz isn't always great, but for example, say 9 months out of 12, someone will see a whale shark.
Yeah.
We have sunfish molars there, lots of rays, lots of barracudas. So. But it's not for the faint-hearted. That's why we use scooters, because you can get some really strong currents. Sometimes we can't go on some of the sites because the current is just because the Gulf, which is a little lake, is emptying out, and so you get these fast water movements the closer you get to the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now on the map. It's kind of like a big rectangle sat like that, and then just goes like that around, sort of.
Yeah, so with that little bit at the top, that's part of Oman, of course. We're not allowed in. Omani residents can go back in now. We can go into Muscat, apparently, which is on the mainland, but we can't go up to the Muslim Dam, because if they get, it's still quite traditional up there, and I guess if they got a big COVID hit, it would decimate the population. So, the diving can wait. But I'm looking forward to see what's happened with the marine life.
With nobody being on it.
Yeah. So that's how we go there once a month on a Arabian Dow. It's like a liverboard, bit rough and ready, but it's good fun, good crack. The same group every month. And then with COVID, I said, right, let's get diving the Dubai side again. And we've had a ball, and we've had some amazing viz on some of the dives, which. Yeah. It's unheard of. So if you look at the Dara video, the Nasteran, the US landing ship medium, then we found the tug, which we called Abdullah's wreck. Well, Abdullah found it, that's right, and he gave me them. But he was on it on Friday, and the name of Abdullah's wreck is the Marshal.
Right.
Like martial arts, not like the field marshal. He found it and cleaned off the name and sent me a video.
Nice one.
So we've had some new sites, so yeah, COVID's been good to us, right? As soon as we were allowed back on the boat and diving, I just said to the same people I dive with, let's dive off the Dubai coast. And it's okay, yeah. But we've had some fantastic diving this year.
What are the state of the wrecks there? Because other than like we just talked about, where it comes around the tip, where it's almost the Oman and then reaches Iran and the Omani border. I would imagine there's not an awful lot of movement of water there. Is that right? So are they in good nick, or does it get quite stormy?
There's a lot of water. The Dar is our most famous wreck. Nearly all the wrecks are on the Dubai coast. On the east coast, there's 3 tugs or supply boats sunk as artificial reefs, and then there's a couple of technical wrecks. I think the Inis, the Anita, and submarine, and they're deep.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that would get me on a rebreather, is to go and film those.
Are they in good nick?
Right. Yeah, they're in pretty good. Yeah, most of the wrecks are in pretty good shape. We've got on this coast, we've got the Energy Determination, which was a big tanker that goes down to 80 metres. Yeah, we found that. That's when we dived 60 metres on air.
60?
Yeah, well,
well, they used to do the Andrea Doria back in the 70s and 80s on her, didn't they? And that was about as deep. So
yeah, you weren't down there for anything more than a couple of minutes, and then most of you could go up to 26, and then with deco on the line.
Right.
So we found that. I found the Nasteran, I found the Jassim. We got some nice wrecks. The one, the Abu Dhabi wrecks on Dubai, it takes me quite a while to get there, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to anchor overnight on them. But I've got to get a new driving licence now, because we've got to have a federal one to go there instead of a Dubai one. So
all right.
I'm just waiting for my RYA new ICC to come up, so then we'll go up there and dive those, because it'll take us 6 or 7 hours steaming.
Yeah.
So we'll leave probably 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and then diving. But it's the boats. We can sleep on it. We can cook on it. So
awesome. Yeah. Like yours as well, yeah.
Yeah, I've had it 20 years. It's a friend of mine who passed away, and his family insisted that I take it, and I shared it with a friend of mine for many years. So yeah, we do most of the work on it ourselves. That's some of my most popular videos, are the ones on Dubai Coronet, because it's like the MGB of boats. Yeah. There's a big following in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and of my one, the Yacht 44, there was only, I think, 14 made and 4 left.
Wow.
So, and mine's probably in the best condition. One guy does have some Volvo Penta D6s in his, though, which is a lot of money. But I think mine is probably in the best condition, because it's relatively cheap here to do the stuff. We do a lot of the work ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easy, but it doesn't consume a lot of fuel, because a big old Volvo Penta TMD 70Cs, which go along at 1800 revs. So I think we take 30 litres an hour is what we consume, which is, for a boat that size, nothing.
Well, I'm yet to own a boat, and I think I've hit the limit of buying everything else now.
You know the joke, don't you?
Go on.
You know the 3F joke.
No. I
can't say it on here, but
Yeah, you can. Go on.
What does I say? It floats, flies, or rent it, don't buy it.
We were watching something about Monaco. I was on the BBC the other day, and they were saying, whatever your boat costs you to buy outright, it'll be roughly 10% of that a year. Wow.
Yeah, I would say it would be more.
Really?
I think the insurance cost on one of those mega yachts is going to be 4 to 5% of the value.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, see, mine's old. So what do I pay? I pay about £1,500 a year for insurance.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do a video on what it costs to run my boat, because a lot of people would be interested. So we've just put the figures together for the year. But because it's old, it's we can fix virtually anything because it's none of this fancy molded stuff and all of that. You know, we can. And when I do work, the first place I go to is a truck shop because they make a lot of stuff. So you know, my Samsung microwave 24-volt came from a trucker shop.
Yeah.
You know, my
awesome
spotlights and stuff are all trucker spotlights. You know, because as soon as you mention the word marine, they multiply the price by 5.
But it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So
the 24-volt stuff. Yeah.
Even our CCTV for the engine room is a truck reversing camera.
No way.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you might find, because I made a video yesterday. It's completely different, totally nothing to do with diving. So if you were doing something to do with your boat as opposed to diving related, the views on mine's gone through the roof compared to anything else that I've put out in the last week. So I did a video last week on how to change the latex seal on a dry glove system.
Yeah, I saw that.
And looking at it now, it's had 81 views. Now, yeah, and that's been out a couple of days. I went yesterday, I was up early, went to our local reservoir, flew my drone around, did some stills, some
I saw
time
that.
lapse. Yeah, and that's had 3,500 views. It's only been up half a day.
That was a PADI dive centre, Dutton Divers or something, was it?
No, it was Worthington Lakes, it's called. But I've done one for like that. But this Vivian Quarry, you're talking about that one. But
yeah.
But this one, because I can't dive and I've got all this photography kit and I want to get used to how it works when I go back to a dive site that I've not dived before and make a sort of dive guide. I figured, well, why not go and find some beauty spot? It's covered in snow and ice, and you know it's got loads of sort of what might be Victorian or Georgian type of architecture around it. Go and capture some of that, put it up on YouTube, and see if it, you know, the hashtags that you put on Instagram certainly pull in a different audience. And it's had 4 times as many views in half a day as something has had for a couple of days. It's crazy.
Yeah, because it's more general interest, isn't it? It's more
definitely.
So I mean, my boat ones always get a lot of views at the start. Yeah, because I put it on Facebook, you know, I tell the Coronet Owners Club, there's a couple of clubs and groups, and I go on the classic boat and that, and it's because but it's very niche, but there's a good following of it, you know, it's like putting something up about an MGB, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it, this has got nothing
so
to do.
I want to do more videos on the boat.
Yeah. Just, again,
but we dive off the boat as well, so there's a
nice mix. So one last thing then, we start wrapping it up. Clearly you've been diving almost as long as I've been alive, so you must have like some proper cool stories of either shit hitting the fan or coming across something you didn't expect to, whether it be that wreck that you just found or something. Give us a story, Brian.
All right. Well, we've had a couple of wrecks over the years, which we've been on first, and a couple come to mind: the Mare and the Sultan, which I don't think anyone ever dived the Sultan except for us.
Yeah. Because
they get cleared away, and I used to have a really good dive buddy. We used to share a fast boat together, called Brastoff 2. John Tilly and I. So yeah, you know, now I really get annoyed if people take brass and that off boats, but I think it's something you go through, right? It's in the old BSAC, it was a rite of passage. In the new BSAC, I think it's maybe not the proper thing to do. We've had a few on the Mare. We were nuts, right? We would because the wreck was in, I think, about 22 meters, but to the top of the wreck was 6. Yeah, we'd be inside there trying to get stuff up, run out of air, and just come up and do a emergency ascent to the surface, really? You know. But our jackets in those days had the little AP valves. From 6 meters. I mean, it was stupid, right? But you know, you're in your late 20s. You know, your brain isn't fully developed if you're a male, anyway. You know, so yeah. But we had. I do remember when we went on the energy determination the first time. Yeah. So we go down there, right, and you're a little bit narked, and then we saw what I thought was, you know, hundreds of sharks. Well, they weren't. They were actually, what are they called? Things with the Z, I can't remember, but they looked like sharks. And then a whale shark, and the water was crystal clear because when we're going down, you know, it was murky, and then we got to, I think, about 25 metres, and it just, Red Sea. And along came this whale shark with these, I forget what they were called. They're very sharp looking, but they're not. And it just blew my mind, right? I thought, we found this wreck, we've looked for it for ages. And look at this. And I had a camera on the boat, but it wasn't with me because I thought, right, the first dive, I'm not going to mess around with the camera.
Devastated. So
then our other diving pair, they went down with my camera and claimed we got the first picture of the whale shark in the energy. I took it on the second dive, and then the whale shark was still there, you know, just checking us out.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was amazing. You know, when you go on a wreck, which except for maybe from salvors or some Navy divers who no one's ever dived it, we've had that a few times over the years, not recently so much. But that is when you find something new, like we've got you saw I've done a few. We call them first glimpse videos. So we give them marks by the Dubai Voluntary Dive Team to go out and check them for nets and that. And we've had a couple of crackers on there. We've had a couple of the barge ones, long barge and rock barge, weren't so great. But you know, just going on somewhere new, that other people is always nice. And then one we were looking for what was it called? Secret Dhow. So we got the marks for Secret Dhow. Apparently it was one of these big wooden dhows where it was carrying cars. So we hook on. Well, great. Down the line. Oh, that's another big tug. Give me the wrong marks, you know. So, but it was a great wreck. You know, so yeah. What else? Best trip ever. Best trips. I think Truck Lagoon. I've been twice.
Have you?
Yeah. Can't get enough of that. Yeah. Will I go again? Probably now, because now that I'm a YouTuber, you know, and go and put it on. I was never into video at all. You know, I used to I've still got an Iconis 5, like new, 35mm slide. I was never really good. I was quite okay on the macro stuff when you used to use the prongs to get it in focus. But I can't claim to be that artistic, you know. Truck Lagoon. Galapagos, definitely. Although I hear that Galapagos is not as good as it used to be because the fishing fleets are in from our friends in Asia and shark finning. So, and I've even heard that in Costa Rica the same's happening. There's a lot on the wire on Costa Rica.
Yeah,
illegal fishing.
Certainly, places like that I've been reading. I was reading something in National Geographic the other day, and they're almost asking people not to come now because the detrimental effect of people coming with things that they shouldn't bring, whether that be diseases or parasitic stuff and all this, is just having such a detriment.
So that's right, I've been lucky. I mean, I dived Sipidan when you could stay on the island.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just grateful for that. So Sipidan was good. But I just want to spend time in Indonesia, southern Philippines, because they've got world-class diving there. I've got to get over to South Florida and dive some of those wrecks.
Well, it's just a matter of time now, isn't it? This COVID's almost on the back foot now, so. Yeah,
well, the vaccine. I mean, did you see that thing the other day? A doctor came out of a hospital and everyone's there with masks off, saying COVID's, not. I mean, I've lost friends. I've lost friends to COVID. Right? There was a guy who used to own aqua diving service, a guy called Clive Frost. And he was one of the first to get COVID and passed away. They
had a massive rave in France yesterday, didn't they? Have you seen that? 2 days they would, over New Year's Eve and the day after, they had a massive rave with a couple of thousand people that had come over from the UK, and none of them were wearing masks. They're all doing balloons and drinking and all the rest of it. And it just like and the police had to surround it with like loads of people. They couldn't initially break it up because they were throwing bottles and stones at them.
Yeah. New Year's Eve, I just sat on my boat with a bottle of Dalmore 12-year-old, just watched the fire. We didn't go out or anything because we can only take 6 people out anyway due to the restrictions.
Yeah.
I just sat there. I didn't want to go to any event because I'm 62. I'm overweight. I've had the first jab, but I'm not going to risk it, right?
Nah.
Because there's another new year next year.
Absolutely. I had a massive falling out with my kids because they went out. We were in tier 3 at the time, and Liverpool, only around the corner, was in tier 2. So one of them thought, I'll go there on a night out. and then thought she was going to then come to us for Christmas. So we told her, you're not welcome at our house on Christmas Day, which was it was awful for us, but it's not as awful as catching COVID and not being able to dive at all this year, is it? So it's just not worth the risk for me. Whether it's a hoax, whether it's been planned, whether it's anything but what we think it is, I don't care. It's certainly there, and the possibilities of catching it are high. So I'd sooner not. Thanks very much.
I think Britain's done a great job in rolling the vaccine now. I mean, the UAE's just been tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they've handled it the best. I mean, I think I've had about 9 tests. Every time I go to Abu Dhabi, I have to have a test.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's drive-through. You pay 10 quid, drive through while you wait, they give you the result.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, but no, we had a really tough lockdown. But because I'm in construction, after about 3 days, we were allowed to work and move around. Yeah. But everyone else was. At one stage, they said, with your dog, if you live in an apartment, well, walk it around the car park. And I managed to get my dog moved over to kennels in Ras Al Khaimah in the countryside.
Yeah, that's good.
But they had to do it, right? In fast. Everyone wears a mask. I mean, went out to walk the dog last night. I forgot my mask. I got over. Oh shit! Turned around and went and got a mask. So there's no argument. Everyone's following the rules. That the government's coming around to workplaces, establishments. Where was I? I just went down to the gym in the building, and there's a sign: maximum 10 people any one time. And people are following the rules. But I don't know what it is in these Western liberal democracies where people think they can do what they want. Because if you're young, right, you're not generally not going to die from it, but your mum, dad, or your grandparents might have infected them. But no one seems to think about that.
No, it was good. It was on the news. They had some professor coming on, and they'd not only been stating, if you pretend or act as though you have got it, that's the best way of behaving. He said, but can you actually go out and do your normal day to day, and then think that you might pass that on? Somebody might die because of your actions, and then you've got their blood on your hands. And I thought, that's not too extreme. That's absolutely the right way of selling it, because my kids, they've got some older grandparents that have had quite a lot of health issues, and they will be seeing them over Christmas. So just because you've not got any symptoms at all, how do you know you're not passing it on to them?
Yeah, because that's it. There's a lot of people who've got it, and in my company we had 2 very early on. Our public relations officer, who's a young lad, he's a bodybuilder. He didn't even know he had it, right?
Yeah.
And then one of the office staff, a Filipino lady, she just lost a taste of smell.
Yeah.
Sense of taste and smell. And they were just quarantined for 2 weeks, but they're fairly young, right?
Yeah, doesn't matter.
But as I said, the people that I've known have died from it. So that when you've known someone has died from it, then that really hits home.
A big call, isn't it? Big change.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on, Brian. Best of luck.
No, I enjoyed it. I always enjoy talking to you.
It's been
watch my videos.
So, in that respect, how can people get in touch with you? How can people find your work? If you want to give a bit of a shout out.
Well, it's in the back. Brian Davies Scuba. Even if you spell Davies Davies, it still comes up. I guess that's what people look for the most. My email address is always in the descriptions, so it's bdavis.scuba@gmail. Just to hit the subscribe and like button. I'm stuck at around 670 at the moment, 680 maybe tonight. When I started doing the Vaquita videos, I got 145 in a month. So I'm just waiting for that Andy the Northern Diver moment, because you were about the same sort of stage, and then you just went. But I think the BSAC gave you a big shout out on their Facebook page as well.
Certainly getting a couple of mentions in different magazines has helped. And I think the biggest change that I saw was after doing some of the, not necessarily the creator academy within YouTube and understanding the algorithm. I don't at all, but there was quite a few other people that I followed and learned perhaps more about how to do a thumbnail or how the titling and the hashtagging works, and then
I've done. That's what I have. I'm still not unsure about the hashtagging, and I've noticed you don't hashtag in your description anymore.
No, I think it goes against policy, but further down you can actually put tags if there's another box and more options.
They said you can have up to 15, but what I do now, I write my long descriptions with all the keywords in, which I think is better.
Yeah, well, in that tagging box at the bottom, what I would normally do is I'd open up another page on my browser, open up YouTube, and in the search just type in, let's say we're doing something on microphones or GoPro, that's probably better. Type in GoPro, and then it will list a load of things that people are searching for. So choose the most specific one to your video, click that, and then almost copy and paste those titles into that tag.
Yeah. I did try that the other day because I realised I'd put my first GoPro versus Vaquita video up, where I've got 2 Hero 8s, one with a filter on and the Vaquita on one, and I put that up, and I hadn't mentioned GoPro at all, except in the title. So I go into the description.
Well, you've got 500 characters to play with in that box, so you can certainly get quite a lot of info.
Yeah, no, I try. I do work hard on those descriptions now.
But what I did like an experiment, and it worked. But why I've not carried it on, I just can't be asked. But Twitter, I'm not a massive fan. I don't use it a lot. Yeah. But I posted every single day on Twitter a new thing of something that was on my YouTube channel, and that I started seeing paid dividends, because hashtags work more on Twitter than on anything else.
Right.
But there's
62 man. I've got to study this stuff. The brain cells don't go as fast as you young lads, right? But I will look at it now because every time someone mentions something, that's what. Before when we had a chat, then I had to look at your descriptions and things. And he's doing that really nicely.
Well, here's another one. There's a page called Best Hashtag. So go on that, and then whatever your title of your video is, again, say it's GoPro, just type in GoPro, click the send, and then it brings up 30 hashtags, which is what Instagram lets you use. Right. So just copy and paste all them in to your Instagram post, and if people follow hashtags, which a lot of people do, as opposed to following just personalities, that's where you start picking up more views.
Yeah, I'm getting into Instagram a bit now because when I'm sitting on the boat and I see stuff, I just it's taking me a bit of time,
It's so complicated.
But again, a year ago, if you said have a YouTube channel, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah. Well, nice one, mate. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
All right.
See you later. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Thanks very much to this week's guest for sharing their stories and interesting tales about the underwater world. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did recording it. For more information on this episode, take a look at the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and follow us on Instagram for the latest news. Thanks again to Northern Diver International and those of you who have supported me through Patreon. Take care, and I'll see you on YouTube.